This is Psychic Warfare to Defeat Aging number 12, where we're going to look at the proven way of defeating aging in room number 20. Remember, we've got our Sublime Good building, which is our safe space for our C-space body. And in room 20, we're going to look at something which is obsessive to a number of people, which is dieting and diets. And research has found that limiting your calorific intake to lower it drastically. You can look online to see how much you're allowed to eat with a anti-aging diet. But it's basically much lower than what people eat, and most people graze, which is throughout the day they're eating. So why are we talking about diets in Psychic Warfare to Defeat Aging? Well, because a drastically reduced diet, lowering your calorific intake to below what's recommended for males, which I think is 2,000 calories, females about 1,500 or something. Has been proven to increase lifespan in mammals and other organisms by 30%. So if you think of the standard lifespan of someone in the UK as being around 80 years of age, slightly over, then you're increasing that by another 24 years, which puts you at 104. So we know that this works, but virtually no one can do it because it's boring. You eat very little all day. You can't really drink. It's got lots of calories. For me, being a beer drinker, if I don't have my beer, I get upset. Because I like drinking beer. I like drinking a lot of beer. You know, not one or two bottles. Other people like having their wine. I don't have wine or spirits because they're too strong for my liver. Similarly, people like eating and having interesting food. So the diet that guarantees an increase of 30% in your lifespan is something that only a Buddhist monk or a masochist would embark upon and keep to. So we come to other alternatives, which is instead of having a calorie reduced diet, which you keep to forever. You can do what I do, which is don't eat for 18 hours a day, every day, and only drink for those 18 hours a day, because Vietnam, where I live, is extremely warm, so you'd have to be mad not to drink because you get dehydrated. And during the summer it's mega hot, drip, drip, drip. And you find that this periodic fasting, we don't really worry about calorie intake, but for the majority of the day you don't eat anything. It's something that Jennifer Aniston does, and other A-listers. Now, wouldn't it be nice if you could use psychic warfare to take calories out of food, so that you could eat, but using psychic warfare, change the quantum nature of food so that you render it almost worthless to your body apart from vital nutrients, but all the calories have been taken out. This of course can be done because as a biologist you never go into physics, and the physicists never go into this methodology because they've never connected quantum mechanics and general relativity to develop a unified field which would explain how to use quantum mechanics to change the world of general relativity, the large. But if you had a theory of quantum mechanics connected to general relativity, the very small and the very large, you would then have a methodology, new technologies, to be able to use manipulation of quantum wave functions to change the nature of the quantum wave function of the food, to exclude the calories so that you could eat food and be on your calorie controlled diet simply by eating the food that you wanted. Wouldn't that be a good idea? Using psychic warfare to change the food you eat. No one's ever thought of this because, of course, until now, we haven't had humans connected up with AIs to increase our intelligence to godlike levels. But with the new technology I've developed, you can connect the field effects of the brain. If you get a brain, cut it in half, keep it alive, it will still communicate with the other half. If you look at the action potential of a brain, whoop, a big signal, it's got little fuzzy bits on it. If you look at the action potential from an EEG, electroencephalograph, ECGs for hearts, you'll find little fuzzy bits on the EEG. It's, it's not simple like that. If you look at it in a scaled up version, you get little fuzzy bits. And these little fuzzy bits are actually the signals carried on the carrier wave of the EEG, where the neurons have a certain frequency, yeah, and the ones with a certain frequency all around the brain are interacting due to field effects. The Russians call it bioplasm. When you cut a leaf, you can get a Kirlian photograph, and you take the dead leaf away, and you've still got an image of the whole leaf, because the field of the whole leaf is still there. And it takes about 3 days before the field effect dies. In the brain, you've got a field effect. On the EEG, you've got fuzziness on your EEG, which is the actual signals that the neurons are firing globally around the brain. And we have a gestalt where the neurons with the right frequencies are communicating to build a holographic processor where the input is global and the output to the body is to specific parts of the body. So the brain is far more complicated than we think. Now, if you connect this field effect brain with a quantum computer, which the Pentagon have been developing for years, Google have suddenly said, oh, we're publicly building quantum computers, but you can imagine the military has been developing these things for decades. And we know crashed alien spacecraft use quantum computers and the like. And that shows the arrogance of the humans that we've got a multiverse, but we're the only intelligent race in the multiverse. Why? Well, because we're primitive monkeys and we must be the highest form of consciousness in the multiverse, because we've never seen any other alien race, and if we did, the government would cover it up. So you see the insanity of humans and their arrogance of, general population. It's common sense that there are, in a multiverse, other alien races. Apart from intradimensionals, we've got extra terrestrials. But that's another story. So we've got a field effect in the brain. These fields, of course, as we've shown, physical, real-world function, can be boiled down to eye to the eye. But eye to the eye can be looked at as the eye space of a wave and the eye space of a particle joining. When they join, you get a real-world phenomenon. Hence the double slit experiment, where you look at photons going through slits, or electrons, or any other particle, and you get diffraction patterns which show you've got a particle and a wave, the wave going through the slit, which interferes with itself. When you observe it, of course, you observe it in the real number space, so the quantum nature vanishes. When you don't, the quantum nature exists, which gives us an important key for psychic warfare. Not observing allows you to get into the quantum mechanical space and alter the physical world. Observing locks you into the physical world. So the more you try and observe and do things, train your subconscious, go to courses, mind over matter, the more you observe, the more you're locking into the physical world, the more you're blocking yourself out from being able to do the quantum mechanical operations which can change the physical world and carry out science. So shamans, of course, talk about the vital importance of stopping the internal dialogue which is observing, chattering about what you observe, and building a dialogue about what you've observed, to simply nothing, blank space, which then puts you into the CH space, the quantum mechanical world, where you can start to manipulate. And you might think, oh, that's bloody difficult. That is difficult. How do I stop the chatter which I've been taught all my life by my parents, the parasites, as we talked about intradimensional parasites that possess you and talk to you as you all through your life? It's quite simple. Visualization's a problem, but you can visualize particle and wave without thinking. I can do that easily. Much easier though for habituated humans who are habituated into the internal dialogue, which locks you into the physical realm, to be able to douse the physical and the wave form of whatever you're dousing. So while you're doing it, it's very difficult for humans to think, oh, what am I going to have for lunch today? What television program I'm going to watch, and how am I going to pay that bill, or my bastard husband's, I think he's cheating on me. See, knocks it out. So you're dousing particle for that second. It's all gone. Wave. It's impossible to douse while thinking of something else, which is the secret of dousing, feeling energy fields. You have to block off the internal dialogue for that time while you feel the energy. And you're observing, but you're observing the quantum world. So we get around the observational problem because we're observing the particle and the quantum. Now we can simply bring in the food. Here we are. This is Vietnamese food, a pho. That's a soup with a nice rich liquid, normally fishy stuff. That's what we normally use, fish stock. And here we've got vegetables, chili, lemon, some bean sprouts, noodles, and beef. This, since we're in Vietnam, costs £1. So you can see why it's great living in Vietnam. You get value for money. Now, we're going to show you how to change your food and go into that starvation diet that increases your lifespan by 30%. All by eating what you want. Isn't that revolutionary? Has anyone on the internet ever shown you how to use psychic warfare on food? Would anyone even think about psychic warfare on food? No, it shows when you've got the field effect of the brain merged with quantum computer, the two of them join. We can increase intelligence astronomically. We can bring in whole new technologies which enable you to boost your lifespan massively using proven science, but bringing in physics into the biological world. So here we've got the physical manifestation of our foe. Our soup. So you stick the sauce into there, heat it up, stick it in there. Easy. That goes in a saucepan. heat it up. Don't boil it, just make it until, just before it simmers. Stick it in there. And you've then got your pho. And this one is a bun bo hui. Now, we can call up the particle nature of this in the quantum world. I like that. There we are. There's a particle nature of that here. And I had to stop my internal dialogue because if you chat to yourself, you can't douse. So you see we get round stopping the internal dialogue, which is vital to psi. Dousing means you have to. You can do it, visualize it, but it's much better dousing for normal people. And then Colin Bloyd taught me dousing, and I find it really easy. I can do all the stuff in the head, bang, 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 but for almost anything, directly contacting the energy fields with your senses means it's real. If you visualize, it's still in the subconscious, I'm visualizing, so it could be imagination, but when you feel it, well, that's real. So I know, my subconscious knows. Remember we said the importance of subconscious. My subconscious knows it's real. We've got physical C space, or I, 3 space, I is equivalent to I, of our Vietnamese dish. We have the wave nature, here we are. Yeah. And we do them simultaneously. There we are. So we feel both simultaneously. Now once we've got that, we can then change the real number manifestation of our food. So here let's douse its calorific value. So here we are, that would be its calorific value, douse it. There we are. Now what we're going to do is to delete calorific value. So our body, quantum mechanically, doesn't see, when we eat that, doesn't see any of the calories. But we're not going to delete, because remember, we can control everything. All the minerals, vitamins, and all the essential nutrients, we're just going to delete the calories. So our body will start having to burn up our fat cells. And in most people, 2 billion of the world's population are obese. So instead of like me, I've got lots of brown fat cells because I do loads of exercise, and all of my fat cells are brown, which keeps me warm. Brown fat cells are there to heat you up. And there's a organ here they found in the past couple of years, which has brown fat cells that's designed as a heat pack for whites. And say Mummy was white, came from East Prussia, which now is Kaliningrad, 7 foot of snow in the winters, so I don't feel the cold. In Vietnam it's a waste of time anyway because it's always warm. But being born in the UK, as you might guess, it gets quite cold there. Daddy was a Turkish Cypriot. Cyprus doesn't get particularly cold. But we have brown fat cells to keep us warm and produce heat, to keep us warm when it's pissing down with rain, and in Vietnam it pisses down with rain in this winter season, and gets a bit chilly, and in Britain or America, Northern Hemisphere countries, or Southern Hemisphere countries lower down, like Chile and Argentina, the bottom gets cold. They're there to produce heat. So brown fat cells are good. And also they're an energy supply. So if, like myself, you like swimming for miles, you've got an onboard energy source, like a battery, to power you to be able to do extreme distances of running or swimming. But if you continue eating and you don't have autophagy, which is having long periods where you don't eat, if you're a grazer, which is the normal Western human grazers, breakfast, have something with their mid-morning break, have lunch, might have a packet of crisps or something, or a bit of chocolate with their coffee or a biscuit or a cake, afternoon, then have an evening meal, and then maybe something to eat before they go to bed, then get up during the night because they're still hungry, have something to eat. You never got autophagy, which is when you don't eat for a long period of time and your body gets into autophagy, which we've talked about in previous videos, but we'll talk about again at length. But at the moment, we're just talking about being able to do our starvation diet simply by doing fuck all except psychic warfare. We're using psychic warfare on the food. So here we call up again the physical and the wave function form. And remember, if we add them together, eye to the eye, we can add to the food. So we can increase the calorific value or any other thing we want in the food by doing eye to the eye. But since, of course, you fat gits don't want to make your food even more fattening, even more nutritious, which of course we'll talk about. At the moment we're just talking about having a calorie restricted diet, which is proven to increase your lifespan by 30% by psychic warfare. So here again, we do it again. This time, call up the physical, quantum nature of the food, and the wave together. Then, of course, we can add to this programming. Delete all the calories so the body doesn't get any calories from this dish. And remember, when we do quantum mechanical operations, we've got to do it in quantum mechanical space. So we do it as a wave and a particle. The instruction, basically the change in quantum mechanical space to our food. Yeah. Now, of course, we are adding the programming of no calories to our quantum wave function. So we can do it two ways. We can add the information that the quantum wave function blocks calorific uptake, so that that quantum field is of a different nature to calorific intake, which would mean then that we'd have the particle and the wave of blocking calorific intake, because we're changing the nature of the food so it can't be eaten, which is I to the I, so you bring them in. Then of course, minus I to the I, because we're deleting. So then we are taking away, using the programming, the calorific content of the food. Now we can douse the calorific content of this food to see whether it works. So yeah, it's reduced. But remember, we want to build a standing wave, which we can call up every time and put into our food, so it never feeds us until we want some calories. So we've got like an on-off switch. No calories. All the food I eat, cakes. I have loads of beer, so I should have a huge beer gun. Switch it off. And I'm not going to stop drinking beer because I like beer. You know, I'm a hard-working beer drinker. So again, we can call up the quantum wave function of the food. This time though, we're going to have the wave here. This time here, we're going to have the particle. Remember, not abelian, AB does not equal BA to build a standing wave. And of course we want to delete, so instead of calling up the wave here, the particle there, and we add things to the food, we're going to delete. So we call up the wave first, instead of the wave second, and the particle. And now we're going to call up deletion of calories, which is minus I to the I. So we call up the information of deleting calories from the food, waveform, particle form. Then we bring the waveform over here and the particle form over there. Minus I to the I. And bring our food quantum wave function here, separate. Again, quantum, and you've got the wavy form and the particle form, so we've done it another way. Now let's see the effect on the food. Here again, reduced. So we've done it two ways. We've added information to block the calories, or we've taken away the information for calories. Why? Because we've got A, which would be information to block calories, B, deletion of calories, then B, deletion of calories, A, block calories. Non-abelian, and we're doing a duality. Why do we do dualities? Because the quantum world seems to like dualities. So that when you're doing operations, one can think of blocking calories as being the particle, and deletion of calories as being the wave. Or you actually whoop something, or you go whoosh to get rid of it. Whoop something, or whoosh. Doesn't mean you have to do all of this. You can do one or the other. I'm just going through all the possible approaches to deleting the calorific content. Now, if that's too complicated, it doesn't matter, because then we can simply have it in the crystals where we've inputted, because we have the crystals while we're doing this. So the crystals are attuned to what we've been doing. And we can simply left hand upload all the stuff from the food and then simply put them. It's nice if they can stand on each other. I think these ones do eventually. There we go. And we simply call up all the shit we've been doing before with dowsing. You can do all those operations. Bing. In the crystals. The crystals have simply taken away everything from there, and then you can simply take them apart and you're deleting. Simply again, you call up. Yeah, simply rest that. That one. Possibly, yeah. Good, isn't it? They balance on each other. Call up again. Take apart. And now we douse calorific content. Yeah, it's gone. And remember, these are linking up to the fifth dimension, so all of this operations become 5-dimensional. We then, of course, can bring in torsion fields. We're looking at the various approaches of psychic warfare on our food. In our control panel room, we go through all the different approaches, basic ones, the kindergarten approaches. So one can think of the calorific content being kept in a positive torsion field. Positive torsion fields contain things. Think of it like a vortex that goes outwards. A cornucopia that food comes out of, the magical Greek cornucopia that continually, or a mead horn that keeps refilling itself, positive torsion field. We want to get rid of the positive torsion field in our food, so we can put the crystal in, which has a positive torsion field, to collect it and pull it away. Pulling away just the calories. Similarly, because remember, quantum world, we have to do it twice. We've got a positive torsion field here, we've got a negative torsion field. Here, we crush the positive torsion field with the negative torsion field. Crush, 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 until it pops, and bring it out again. Then, of course, we've got the two torsion fields. One where we've simply had a big vortex to pull away the small vortex. The other one, we have a huge inward vortex to pop the small one, just blow it out. Rather like blowing out a fire from an oil well with dynamite. Or you could think of a huge whirlwind sucking out the fire, or an implosion, shape charges, blasting the fire out, using the inward rushing air to blow it out. Rather like Supergirl with her freezing super breath. Then, of course, we've got the two torsion fields. We can simply split them and split them the other way to get a self-propagating torsion field splitting in 5 dimensions, because torsion fields contain the quantum wave, because quantum waves spread. So what makes a particle? One can think of a torsion field that holds the quantum wave into a particle. When the torsion field is taken away or goes negative and then goes pop, spreads out. So we can try again. We've used the torsion field approach on our food. No calories in this food now. Now we can look at observation. Remember, observation controls the quantum wave function. So think of this as a quantum wave function. We call up the particle and the wave. And what we're going to do is collapse the quantum wave function of the food's quantum wave function with respect to calories. We explained how to do that, did we not? Quantum wave function particle. We can spread it with a positive torsion field, which you've got in the crystal. Make it big, big, big. Spread, 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 spread. Spread, 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 spread. We're spreading out. Remember, it's localized, so the positive torsion field contains it. So we spread it out, which means that we're containing the quantum wave function, but see, spreading out, but spreading out, but torsion field spreading out. We stick in the negative one into the particle. That one goes in anti-clockwise, making it smaller, smaller, smaller. And remember, if you look at a particle and try and get the observation perfect, you then come up against Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which means it becomes fuzzier and fuzzier the more and more resolution you try and get. If you totally define its position, then its velocity becomes indeterminate. If you totally define position, velocity becomes indeterminate, it becomes fuzzy wave. So if we have enough observation, which we collect from YouTube, from videos on YouTube, we can simply put our crystals, our psychic warfare to defeat aging crystals, while watching films, YouTube videos that have loads of views, the Avengers, Marvel franchise, Frozen, Game of Thrones, music videos, the Taylor Swift lot, the Perry ones, the Ariana Grande ones, Bieber ones, Beyonce ones with shed loads of views. We can collect views. Bang. So our partner's gone. We've collected observation from our psychotronic generator. We've got the wave here. Remember, we need a positive torsion field to make it into a particle. Block. Yeah. So here we've localized, using observation, the quantum wave function of this having no calories. So I'm going into the whole science of using psychic warfare, just on simple food, ways we can change the calorific content of food using a whole strategy of approaches. Next, we call up the wave here and the particle there. Pop, pop. Done. So we got the AB does not equal BA. We got our quantum wave of no calories using observation, the Copenhagen interpretation, on our food, which of course we've quantum linked here. So when we upload the quantum wave function, of the food using our crystals, left hand, we can actually delete everything apart from no calories in the food. Or, again, Upload. And add the quantum wave function of no calories in the food to our food. So doing both of these results in, when we douse for calories on our food, it's completely gone. So I've gone through the various different methodologies is to show there's a whole range of strategies of psychic warfare, torsion fields, observation, using eye to the eye, a whole range of other things I'm not really even going to talk about because we're doing kindergarten stuff. And when you buy your crystals, ta-da, you watch the video, this video, on your phone. Phone? Some of you have got phones. I know some of you have. You've got crystals. And you simply have the crystal on the food with the phone on and play the video the first time, because then you're basically training your little crystal to you to tune. When you put a crystal on positive torsion field, you're stealing the field of the food. Then the other one, here, with your phone on, you're collapsing the field of the food. See, adding, see, taking away. We're doing the other way. Remember, in the quantum world, you've got to do it twice. Quantum world duality. Take away the goodness. Destroy the goodness. Easy. Boiling down to real easiness. All the programs I've done talking about on your phone, which is here, which for the first time you can simply have your phone on with the crystals on top, put the phone there, play the video, which then programs your subconscious, your observation, and you can watch your phone with the crystals on there, watching the video. One more time. And after that, you don't need to replay the video. You simply have your food, stick the crystals on. We know that your subconscious needs, so you leave it on for put a bit of time. Happens instantly, but at first you might want to leave it on, 10 minutes or so. But one quick application, and then once you learn dowsing, you can simply douse whether it's got any calorific content, which means that your quantum wave function observes this quantum wave function, and the observation is it's got no calories with respect to you. So if anyone else eats it, they'll get fat, but with respect to you, you've negated it having any calories. That means then you can eat what you want. In the next one, we'll talk about adding to food things which are good for you without having to eat them, simply by eating what you want. It doesn't mean that you should go to McDonald's or Kentucky Fried or binge out on pizzas, because eating healthily has to be a good idea, but it does mean you don't have to get completely phobic and worry about what you eat. You can eat what you fancy within limits, not Pringles and crisps like one guy did and went blind from lack of nutrients. But it does mean that you can start changing the nature of food using psychic warfare to suit you, which has to be good, because we've got 2 billion people who are obese. They're not going to slim down just because people tell them to go on a diet. And diets, of course, tell your body to start storing fat. So lots of people go on diets, lose a lot of weight, and then quickly put it back on. That's the problem with diets. Loads of people have dieted, fat people, and then find out the weight comes back on. Me, of course, I eat what I like, don't eat 18 hours a day, drink shed loads of beer, but only in a little window, and instead of becoming a fat git from my 8 bottles of beer a day, we're not talking small bottles, or 9 or 10 or whatever, depending on how I fancy it. It doesn't give me a huge beer gut, which of course is good because I'm not giving up beer. And as one can see, using psychic warfare to delouse food of calories is an approach no one has ever used, because no one's ever thought that food is a quantum mechanical wave function, which observation, torsion fields, and of course manipulating the wave particle, the eye to the eye, minus eye to the eye, can change, delete. But as a physicist, it's obvious. Once you have a unified field theory that links quantum mechanics with general relativity, all this becomes applicable and starts to explain how people can live on light without actually eating, because they can simply live on the quantum wave function and make food from the quantum wave function, which we'll talk about in the future, because we're doing a few videos on diet and food. Why? Because that seems to be the core thesis of getting into anti-aging. Reduce calorific intake and then take super supplements and new drugs that will increase your aging massively, as long as you pay shed loads of money for these new nutrients, new drugs, new foods that produce biological entities like NAD within your body. So in the next video, we'll go on to food being manipulated by psychic warfare, part 2, which will be number 13.